Hey guys, welcome back to the BuzWeaver channel. We have some breaking news here from CBS Los Angeles. Jewish man 69 dies after clash during dueling protest over Israel-Palestinian conflict in LA area. Now, if you guys have been a subscriber here to the channel for some time, of course, you know we go back as far as the George Floyd incidents and discuss the continuing activity that goes on with protest and the much discussed ideology and philosophy of a civil war that we're engaged in. Now, we're not talking about two skirmishing sides with a line in the middle and then facing off with one another. We're talking about the continuing rise of protest, activity, censorship, and just the dueling battle that takes place even in cyberspace and in these protests nearly every day. A 69-year-old man died after an altercation while two sides rallied over the Israel-Hamas conflict Sunday afternoon in Thousand Oaks. Calling it a bit of a rally is very similar to calling it almost a mostly peaceful protest. The Ventura County Sheriff's Office identified the 69-year-old man as Paul Kessler, a pro-Israeli protester. The Jewish Federation of Greater Los Angeles described him as an elderly Jewish man and said a pro-Palestinian protester struck him with a megaphone in what they describe as an anti-Semitic crime. Now, as you know, when we cover these stories, we talk about frozen water bottles being thrown, rocks, bricks. Then, of course, you have industrial lasers. They shine in police officers' eyes. And then, of course, professional fireworks. Now, this is just things that people don't really think about when they're in a mob, throwing things and doing things in this hive mindset. They don't realize that their actions could result in someone's death. As easy as simply pushing someone. They trip over, fall over, hit their head on a curb, sidewalk, concrete, whatever, and then they die. And now you have a situation where you thought you were just taking some sort of action because you weren't thinking rationally, and now someone has died. Violence against our people has no place in civilized society, the Jewish Federation said in a statement. We demand safety. We will not tolerate violence against our community. We will do everything in our power to prevent it. Well, this is what happens in Democrat cities, Democrat-run states. They aren't taking this stuff seriously enough, or they allow it to happen because, of course, they don't want the protesters to turn on them, as we are seeing in Washington when we talked about some of the protests there, where they're actually going after Joe Biden, which is why partly that Anthony Blinken went to Israel and even Iran. Why? Because they want to save face. They know that the United States has helped Israel, and now they're going after Joe Biden for being insensitive or even supporting Israel, right? It's just absolutely amazing, but not unusual. Now, I'm not going to show you anything graphic or anything here. I'm just going to show you this news report so you guys can see it, and it's been blurred and everything. So we're going to keep it we'll keep it family friendly here on the channel. So let's take a look.
Says he is stunned by the violence right here at home. This video shows 69-year-old Paul Kessler bloody and on the ground, just moments after what witnesses told sheriff's deputies was a scuffle between Kessler, a pro-Israeli demonstrator, and a pro-Palestinian protester at dueling rallies in Westlake Village on Sunday afternoon. In the video, EMTs have not yet arrived. Sheriff's deputies appear to be asking witnesses questions. A woman wearing the colors of Palestine kneels by Kessler as across the street, the pro-Palestine rally continues. Ventura County investigators say it appears the Thousand Oaks man fell during the tussle and hit his head on the ground.
So just like I said, so there's in one instance they were saying he was hit by a megaphone, but like I just told you, if you push somebody, if you hit somebody, you take a swing at somebody, it may be just you acting out of just a sudden urge of anger, but you don't realize the results of what can happen. Because probably this person, you know, I'm not trying to defend any of the Palestinian protesters, probably only intended to, you know, just ruffle him up and just, you know, kind of just, just push their weight around, and suddenly an elderly man dies. And it's unfortunate. And I know, and it's extraordinary, right? So this man died, and even now, all these years later, going back to 2018, I can remember when the mainstream legacy media just put this on repeat for days on 24/7 legacy mainstream media. Man who drove into Charlottesville protest, killing Heather Heyer, convicted of first-degree murder. Now, you may remember this back in 2018 when there was a protest there. Of course, they tried to blame the Proud Boys. They tried to blame all the different right groups. For example, Oath Keepers and Promise Keepers and all these other groups. They were trying to suggest that they were a major threat to our society, yet you don't see many of these articles like you do here. I mean, 2018, Charlottesville, Virginia. I mean, you would have to work at looking for any of this so-called white supremacy type activity to be able to see and contrast the two. Whereas George Floyd protests, or even these recent protests here with the Palestinian protest, it's absolutely amazing the amount of activity that happens that goes unreported. And of course, you got May 29th activity that happened there in D.C. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't mention a terrible and tragic situation that happened recently as well, or just recently as a result of this as well. A 6-year-old Palestinian American was stabbed 26 times for being Muslim, police say. His mom couldn't go to his funeral because she was stabbed too, or injured. Now, I'm not trying to make light of the fact that this young boy died or his mother injured, but you can see the headlines. You can see the way the narrative is pushed. You can see the way things are framed, because it's always about the media getting their narrative out there. And, so we talk about this, and again, I'm not trying to dismiss any of this. I wanted to bring this up because I know this came up in a conversation several times in a previous video that I made about this particular incident, and I don't want to neglect the fact that this does happen. Now, what I want to do is I want to shift over here to this image, because after that conversation, I wanted to look up the information myself and see what the actual statistics were. So from the Community Relations Service, the U.S. Department of Justice, a total of 1,590 incidents relating to religion were reported. The largest categories of religion included anti-Jewish incidents, 51.4%, Sikh incidents, 11.6%, and then anti-Islamic incidents, 9.6%. Now, it should come as no surprise that there are far more incidents involving Jewish people, just like when it comes to the George Floyd protest, the May 29th protest, the continuing protests that go on throughout Democrat cities and Democrat states, where a lot of these injuries and incidents go unreported. And so here we have the actual stats and data. 51.4% versus Islamic 9.6%. Now, again, I'm not sitting here trying to pick sides to say, look how much one is worse than the other. However, the statistics are right here. It is massive. It is huge. However, we have stories like this from CNN that make everyone believe that there's some massive Islamophobia going on. And we heard from Joe Biden, and we heard from Kamala Harris that they're concerned about Islamophobia. And the questions keep going to 𝐀𝐦𝐚𝐳𝐨𝐧 Jean-Pierre about anti-Semitism, the concern and rise of anti-Semitism. And we can see the statistics why it would be a concern. If 51.4% of these incidents happen versus the Islamic incidents of 9.6%, where do you think we should kind of turn our attention to? I'm not saying we should ignore the incidents that happen against Muslims or Arabs. I'm simply saying let's at least go after where it's a more serious situation. So here we have a Jewish man who died as a result of these protests, and many more have died in protest. Of course, we have covered it here on the channel as well, it's particularly here in Atlanta. When they had the protest there, the George Floyd protest that happened there at the Wendy's, they set on fire. A young girl was killed in her car by a stray bullet. And that was all because of protesting. It had nothing to do with the right whatsoever. It has to do with what goes on when these protesters are protesting. So, extraordinary story, very sad situation that happened to this man. It's unfortunate, but the escalation continues. And I hope people are paying attention, because come 2024, people are going to have to make a decision. It is going to have to be a decision that's going to make a difference in our country, because right now, our culture and our institutions have been held hostage by this leftist, radical ideology and philosophy and worldview that is continuing to escalate, and people are getting hurt and people are dying. Yes, it's not in masses, but it's happening. Little by little, it is happening. But I want to get your guys' thoughts and opinions down below. Do you have any thoughts and opinions on the Israeli-Hamas war? Do you have any thoughts and opinion on a continuing protest, or your ideology, philosophies on a potential cold civil war that's happening in our country? I'd like to hear from you. Thanks to all you guys across New Tech, as well as here on YouTube. Right there, appearing there on the screen will be the channel icon. You guys can click on to subscribe, as well as to select notifications. That way you know when there's content here on the channel. And I'll see all you guys in the next video.